let's talk about the OrchExtra. Talk about a resource that I can't say enough about. Personally, I wish I had an OrchExtra for every show that we do. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Number one, there's space reasons. We have a really lovely theater, but like most theaters, not as much backstage or wing space. And when we first started our theater, we built out over what was a really bad orchestra pit. So the only place we have to put an orchestra is backstage. So you have to think about always trading out the space, backstage space for set, to have orchestra. We can't accommodate a huge orchestra, and we do the huge shows. You know, picture us doing Miss Saigon and being able to have 4 or 5 pieces. You can't do that show and give your audience and your actors what they deserve without having that orchestra. So the OrchExtra has just been a godsend to us. That's one of the reasons why I love it. Another reason why I love it is you get it for a 4-week period of time at least, which gives me lead time for my actors to be able to work with an orchestra sound. Like most community theaters, you tend to have your orchestras come in a week out. And by the time they come in, there's a big period of time trying to adjust to them and for your actors to adjust to them. And everything that you're trying to do kind of stops because you're trying to work with them. My artists get to work with the OrchExtra about 2 weeks out, so when it comes time to do your tech, that isn't even a factor. You can add instruments in and out of it so that you can go into it and you can say, yes, we're going to have these live pieces there, so we'll take them out of the OrchExtra, which gives you that flexibility. You can also adjust tempos, you can adjust keys that you're in, and I'll tell you what, I am not a musician, but I have conquered the OrchExtra, and it was not difficult. People can be fearful of it because they think, how do you know how to do all those things that you have to do with it? The instructions that come with it are so clear, and the support that you get. If you have a problem, you get on the phone and you call up and you say, I got a problem. I don't know what's going wrong here, and they know, they troubleshoot for you, they help you know exactly how to fix it. I love the OrchExtra. Our audiences love the fact that they get the sound of a huge orchestra with our productions. So it's a win-win from every angle that you come at. You have to know your musical directors, and I would tell people that you need to make sure that you're working with a musical director that can kind of embrace the idea of OrchExtra. Again, our younger artists and our younger musical directors that we're trying to train, as you do in a community theater sense, they're so on it and they so understand it that, you know, they're more open to the technology of it. Sometimes an older musical director may at first kind of, oh, you know, I don't know, I just want to wave my arms and have other people follow me, and I'm not sure if that thing's going to, but it does. And I've won some people over. I've had some musical directors that have stood back and gone, I like people, and I only want to work with people. I said, give us a chance. Put this in with some of our real musicians. See what you think. And I actually have won some over in a great way, and they totally understand why it's good in our situation. On stage mishaps happen all the time. Isn't that what we love about live theater? And yes, the great thing about the OrchExtra is that you can jump into a vamp if you need to do that with it, and it covers quite well. I mean, it doesn't stop. You don't just go, you know, nothing on stage here right now. And we have had mishaps before. And the people on stage understand what's going on, and the orchestra does. I mean, mishaps happen even if you have an entire people orchestra, and you have to figure that out. But OrchExtra is it's just like real people, except it's a bunch of them in the box, you know, the orchestra in the box. So it's actually a little bit easier to control because instead of trying to bring 12 people to the same place, you may have those 4 or 5 real musicians there, and you've got the one that's on that. Sometimes it pulls together a lot better. I've seen it work very, very well. I always get the OrchExtra when it is available for a show. I always get it. I wish that the whole catalog had OrchExtra. It really just enhances our performances that much. We just couldn't bring the kind of quality to our productions without it. I'll tell you, it tends to be where when I'm looking for the shows for another season and I know I want to do a big show, I'll look for the ones that have the OrchExtra. If I have to go without an OrchExtra, I tend to find myself looking at shows that are, combos, that drums and guitar and bass and, piano. And it has to be a show that's supposed to be written that way. I just can't bring myself to do these glorious, huge productions without having the accessibility of the OrchExtra. So it very much influences the choices that I make for our theater.